Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is June 20th, and today we're going to take a look at that heat wave you guys have probably heard about building across Pacific Northwest, scheduled for this weekend. First, we have this trough going across the Gulf of Alaska. It's going to dig through British Columbia. In the wake of that trough, there's going to be a ridge building all the way up the west coast of North America into Alaska, and there's going to be a resultant thermal trough up the west coast of North America here, and that's what brings us our nice heat waves here across the Pacific Northwest. We're going to take probably a 2 to 3 day look at just what a west coast thermal trough is and what brings them to an end and why they bring us our warmest temperatures of the year generally. You can see this low pressure out here is eventually going to kind of cut off and meander across the Pacific here, eventually moving in during the day Monday, bringing a marine push at least to coastal areas here across the west coast of North America. So down here you can see that remnants of that hurricane blast down here. It's now just a tropical depression, but a new tropical system is developing out here. It's eventually going to become a hurricane, or it's forecast to, at least through Friday, Saturday this week. But let's jump right into things here. Seattle got to 66 yesterday. It's about 6 degrees below average temperatures. Should be a little bit warmer today, maybe some more sun breaks as well too, as by Tuesday we start to get up towards normal temperatures, but we still have that trough digging across British Columbia we need to deal with before the heat wave starts to make itself known here by this weekend. So taking a look around the rest of the country briefly first before we go back to the Pacific Northwest. Some monsoon moisture is causing flooding concerns down here through New Mexico. We've got flash flood warnings and some hydraulic concerns through Montana as that upper level low churns through there slowly, still bringing some thunderstorm threat through eastern Washington, Idaho, and Montana today. And we've had these excessive heat warnings for portions of the Dakotas and Minnesota, and heat advisories as well. So Spokane is highlighting the thunderstorm risk today. Brief downpours, widely scattered lightning. Not a big deal. Storms should not be severe, but just watch out for that lightning and some of those downpours. Warmer week ahead. The National Weather Service offices are starting to talk about that now as well. So checking out that severe threat across some of the Dakotas and Minnesota today. There's a tornado, wind, and hail threat with that. So heads up if you have concerns out there. Day 2, you can see the Pacific Northwest is devoid of thunderstorm potential, except for maybe British Columbia starting to reintroduce some for the higher terrain as that trough starts to move through the area there. And day 3, definitely probably for British Columbia as well. And there could be some thunderstorm activity introduced to the northern portions of the Pacific Northwest. But now looking here at the wrap, and this is showing those precipitation amounts through Montana we were talking about yesterday, and it's not really as heavy as what was forecast yesterday, so that's a good thing, even though there are still some flooding concerns through Canada and Montana. Some flash flood warnings are up. But you can see the precipitation starting to encroach as we go through Tuesday morning here through British Columbia, the higher terrain especially, and there could be some thunderstorm activity with that as some precipitation makes its way down into the Washington Cascades on the morning of Wednesday. And when that trough moves through, there's going to be a nice ridge building in here. We're going to talk about that in a minute and get into the thermal trough here. So stick with me for a second here. Just showing the thunderstorm potential kind of there for eastern Washington. Not really a significant one, but you can see that upper level low finally kicking out of Montana by Tuesday morning as the next trough moves through British Columbia. Does not have a lot of moisture to work with, but should bring some decent amount for the higher terrain as we go through Tuesday morning on into Wednesday. Now we're looking at 18,000 feet, 500 millibars. Here's that trough over the Gulf of Alaska here, and you can kind of see the trailing edge of this here. It's eventually going to become cut off across Pacific Ocean. But you can see the trough dig across British Columbia here, and in the wake of it, watch what happens. Check out that ridge that builds all the way up into Alaska. Here we're looking at Sunday morning here, strong ridging all the way up through Alaska. Cutoff low here helps enhance that ridging. And as this cutoff low moves towards the coastline, it's eventually going to kick our heat wave out of here, especially for western portions of BC, Washington, Oregon, as we get a nice marine push during the afternoon Monday. So probably another warm day Monday, it looks like, across much of the western portions before that marine push really cools us down. You can see this trough kind of hanging around here too as we go through next week. But we should still be warmer than what we have been as we go post heat wave versus what we've had the last couple of weeks here across Pacific Northwest. So let's take a look at that marine push. I wanted to show this one more time before we go into the dynamics of a thermal trough here. You can kind of see that troughing moving on across Monday. There is some convective potential with this, especially across British Columbia, but these features are subtle, so we could get some higher elevation convection as we go through Monday afternoon. That could even be for the Olympic Mountains, and it's not out of the question you can get thunderstorms in the lowland in such a setup. Sometimes these systems don't make themselves clear until the day of even. So taking a look here at GFS, this is looking at mean sea level pressure anomaly. This shows thermal trough activity quite well. So as we move through Wednesday, you'll see this ridge over Alaska building. The high pressure moves down over Montana, basically. And you can see now we're going to be offshore flow just as a result of this high pressure pushes off over the higher terrain. And we get this resultant thermal troughing go all the way up the west coast of North America into western Washington, either in southern British Columbia here. So this is what's going to be bringing that offshore flow, this high pressure as it moves across here. And we go from higher terrain to lower terrain here through western Washington, Oregon coastal range. You can really heat this air mass up, and you can even get higher temperatures in western Washington than you do in eastern Washington in setups like that. It's kind of a trademark of thermal trough setups. So, and then as we go through Monday, you can kind of see this thermal trough get pushed inland a bit, and that's that marine push starting to move in there as we get high pressure that starts bringing the onshore flow back. So checking this out, this is the GFS now. Notice we've got some pretty good onshore flow going as that trough moves through British Columbia here. The westerlies are ripping through portions of eastern Washington here on later on in through Wednesday. Onshore flow continues, but if you notice we go through Friday, you can see this start to slow down and reverse. You see this north flow through British Columbia here in eastern Washington. That's those offshore winds starting up here. Fraser River Valley winds are even going here. The gorge winds are going as we get some offshore flow pretty solidly on in through Saturday. And look at by Saturday morning, some strong offshore flow going on. It's going to warm us up pretty good Saturday and on into Sunday. As we notice Sunday morning, you're still getting that strong offshore flow across the region. And then by Monday, look at this rapid switch offshore to just this onshore flow as we go southerly through the Puget Sound here. By Monday morning, a lot of times this means one more warm day for the interior of the Willamette Valley, Puget Sound, and sometimes British Columbia here, but the coast generally cools down pretty quickly once these marine pushes start. And then you can see the full onshore flow going on by Tuesday morning, which is really going to cool us down from what we had on the weekend here. I'm going to take a look at some temperatures here in a moment, but looking at now 925 millibars, 2,500 feet. Check out the cool air across Montana, Idaho, Washington, Oregon. Now watch how this changes as we really build this ridge up across the area. Now I want to show Sunday afternoon. Look at this heat that's built up over the southwest, all the way up into Washington, British Columbia, all the way up into Alaska, actually. Look at some of these temperatures at 2,500 feet. You're getting up into the 80-degree range Fahrenheit, 28 Celsius. As you can see, the deserts of the southwest to California and Nevada are just baking at this time as this warm air moves all the way up the west coast of North America here. Nice signature of a thermal trough there. Now, as we move through Monday, you'll notice this air just cool down dramatically as we go in through Tuesday morning. Just a trademark feature of a strong marine push moving across western Washington, Oregon, British Columbia here. Really going to cool us down as you see the interior of Nevada, Utah, Idaho, eastern Washington, Oregon continue to be very warm aloft here while it's very much colder across western portions. So that's a nice signature of a marine push there and the evolution of it. As you can see, as we go into Thursday, some much chillier air will be off the shoreline here. Now, checking out the temperatures at the surface, let's bring this through. As we go through today, look at this GFS calling up towards 70 degrees, just below average for Seattle. We're warming up nicely. Pretty nice day coming up today. Tuesday, we should do it again. Pretty nice day. Look at this, mid-70s, mid-upper 70s for Seattle. Portland, Willamette Valley warming up quite nicely. Eastern Washington, Oregon. But you notice the coastal ranges kind of stay chilly as we still have some onshore flow going on here. Now, as we go on through Wednesday, we cool down a little bit as that trough moves through. Remember, we're still onshore flow here. We haven't reversed that flow offshore yet. Going through Thursday, you can see we get up towards, probably about average for much of the area here. But then as we get towards Friday, you'll notice things start to warm up here as we really start to kick this flow offshore up towards 80 for portions of the Puget Sound. Willamette Valley potentially up towards 80. We'll have to work out some of these details as the high resolution models come in. And we still don't know how much the coast is going to warm up in a scenario like this. There should be some offshore flow going on. So you can see Hoquiam here at 75 on Friday. So we could be warming up the coastline pretty well coming up here too. With these offshore flow events, you can get pretty warm along the Washington, Oregon coast, even Vancouver Island and British Columbia as well. Now look at Saturday. The GFS has upper 80s for Seattle, towards 90 for Portland, actually into the low 90s. And you can see how it's warmer west of the Cascades here. That's a trademark feature of a thermal trough as well. As you're getting this offshore flow, you're getting this additional compression off the Cascades. That air compresses, heats, dries out, and it can can warm up quite rapidly. You see 84 there right against the Washington coastline there. And you can see some of these warmer temperatures all the way out to the Oregon coast there too on Saturday afternoon. Now the real scorcher looks like it's coming on Sunday. Look at this, folks. The GFS has 93 for Seattle by Sunday afternoon. Look at Portland, 95. And again, you can see warmer than the interior of eastern Washington and Oregon, all the way up into the mid and upper 80s for Vancouver Island there, southern British Columbia. And the coastline should still be pretty warm here, but then we're going to go through the big change here on Monday as the marine air starts to move in. But look at this, one more warm day, which is usually what happens during thermal trough events. You get one more warm day as the coastline cools down rapidly during the day Monday, and this is what could spawn some convection. You bring in a strong push of marine air in here, especially for the higher terrain. We could get some thunderstorms across the region, but we might be looking at one more warm day there on Sunday. We'll have to watch just how this unfolds as we go on into the future here. Now, I want to jump into the European here too to see if this agrees. We can see the trough moving across British Columbia here, and you'll notice this. Actually, let's back this up to the 0Z run so we have more of a timeline to play with. You see the trough digging through the area here, and in the wake of it, this low kind of gets cut off here. It helps enhance this ridge. You can see it build all the way up into Alaska here. Good agreement there, but look at how quickly this trough kicks in here during the day Monday. Really going to cool down the coastline rapidly. And like we said, probably one more warm day for the interior, but we're going to look at what the European says as far as temperatures here in a moment. And you can see this trough kind of hanging out across the region here, across Pacific Northwest, on in through mid next week. Now here's the European model here. This is a sea level pressure, the anomaly. This will show the thermal trough evolution here as we go through Tuesday. We're in Wednesday now. And watch this high pressure kind of slide down over the Rockies here. And the result of that is the troughing on the coastline here, which that's the offshore flow. Kind of these winds are moving off the higher terrain, and then we get this lower pressure along the coastline. So you can see by Sunday, the thermal trough really builds all the way up into western Washington, southern BC. But then we really get a marine push here on Monday as we go through the day. So that pretty good agreement there between the European and the GFS. But I want to take a look here at the winds and see just when they kick onshore. Here we go. We're still onshore, or offshore, sorry. We're still onshore here by Wednesday. As we go through Thursday into Friday morning, good agreement with the GFS. Look at these strong offshore winds ripping across Washington and Oregon. This is going to warm up the coastline pretty good too, as well as the interior. And like we saw, that should mean warmer temperatures for western Washington, Oregon than eastern Washington and eastern Oregon. So that's kind of a trademark signature of these West Coast thermal troughs as well. So look at Sunday morning, still strong offshore flow going on here. This is hour 156. And then you can see by Monday, look at this rapid transition to this onshore flow just kind of occur there. That looks pretty aggressive on the European. So I'm kind of curious to see just how much this is going to cool us off during the daytime. We'll take a look at that here in a moment. But looking at the European here, this is yesterday's run. So this is through Monday. It doesn't warm us up across the Puget Sound, but I think we're going to get a little bit warmer than that for the Puget Sound. I think upper 60s is probably what we're going to be looking at today. But as we go through tomorrow, you'll notice we warm up a little bit better towards normal across much of the western portions. And we're still onshore flow here. Like we said, we got this trough that we still have to deal with moving across British Columbia. And that's going to keep Thursday pretty chilly according to the European there. But as we go through into Friday, watch this. Here comes the warm-up. As you can see, the 70s start to overtake much of the west coast all the way up through British Columbia there. And as we go through Saturday, look at this. The European has us getting up towards 80 degrees for the Puget Sound. Look at Portland up towards 90. The coastal areas, look at this, 86 for Hoquiam. So we're going to have to work some of these features out as we get closer. I feel like this might be a little bit chilly. I think we're probably going to be into the 80s, at least low 80s on the day Saturday. But you can see the heat through California as this thermal trough builds all the way up the west coast of North America there. And now let's see what the European's calling for Sunday. You can see the Puget Sound into the 80s. You see some marine influence there still around the Puget Sound areas. It's the European is trying to highlight that, but you can see some 90s all the way into southwest Washington for Portland. And you can see some of the areas here in western Washington or eastern Washington are flirting with 100. So we'll have to watch that, and it'll become more clear what kind of temperatures we can expect as the high resolution models get into range. Here is the ensemble runs. You can see the GFS. This is the 060. You can see 3 days of 80-degree days for Seattle on the GFS. The European calling for about 3 days, but still on the a little bit chillier side here, just getting just into the low 80s for SeaTac. This is yesterday afternoon's Ensemble run. The European showing for Portland a 90-degree day possible on Sunday. The European for Spokane showing some nice weather coming in here for this week and on in through early next week, as they will not cool down as much as western portions of Washington and Oregon will. This is the GFS for Portland showing that 90-degree day for Sunday as well. So yeah, we're going to take a closer look at this today. I was going to look at some of the West Coast thermal trough papers. We're going to talk about some of the features that occur with these as well. And we're going to watch this even closer as the events get closer, and the NAM will eventually get in range of this. The NAM goes out 84 hours to 4 days. So we're getting close to being able to look at the NAM and some of the features of the West Coast thermal trough. And we'll see how warm we get, because you can see there's still disagreement on just how hot we're going to get across the region between the GFS and the European model. And right now, you know, it's still only Monday. This heat wave looks like it's going to start on Friday and go through Saturday, Sunday, and potentially Monday. So we're still a little ways out from this event. We don't want to get too caught up in just what kind of exact temperatures we're going to get yet at this time. There's still a lot to be worked out in some of the details. So yeah, I hope you guys are going to enjoy the day. It should be fairly nice. You know, we're not expecting any big rainstorms, but the precipitation amount should be higher there through British Columbia as this trough moves through during the week this week. But in the wake of that, we're really going to build the heat up. So hopefully you guys are going to enjoy the week coming up ahead. Enjoy these cooler temperatures if you don't like the heat, because the heat is coming this weekend one way or another, it looks like. But then we're going to cool down rapidly after that and return more to normal temperatures. So hope you guys are enjoying the day. Leave some feedback below, like, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.